While young, a person learns best. Once old age comes, learning becomes difficult. Even in maturity, one can learn, but it requires strong willpower and a desire to learn. To avoid falling into apathy, a person must stimulate all the cells in their body, giving them a push toward activity. Once given the impulse, they know what to do. Each cell and organ in the human body has a specific function. Strong desires stimulate the cells and organs towards certain activities. A person should have strong desires, but not too many. If desires are numerous, some cells become fatigued and stop working, leaving the others to overcompensate, creating disharmony in the organism. When a person feels unwell or in a bad mood, the reason often lies in internal disharmony caused by excessive desires. The human soul holds many desires, but not all can be realized in a single lifetime. For a desire to be fulfilled, favorable conditions are necessary. Without them, no matter the effort, success is unattainable. Therefore, one must wisely discern which desires are feasible at the moment and which are not, avoiding unnecessary expenditure of energy. There is a law regarding the fulfillment of desires. When you wish to realize a desire, place it in your subconscious and stop dwelling on it. Work in that direction, but do not focus on when it will come to fruition or what the outcome will be. For example, if a child wishes to grow taller and measures themselves daily, their growth may stall. If they stop thinking about it, one day they will be surprised to see they have grown a few centimeters. This law applies to both physical and mental life. Ignoring it makes the fulfillment of any desire unlikely. Furthermore, certain conditions must be met to achieve desires. For instance, a small puppy cannot take a piece of meat from a large, strong dog unless the larger dog has satisfied its hunger and leaves scraps behind. Then, the puppy can cautiously approach and partially fulfill its wish. People often wonder why some desires remain unfulfilled or why others collapse. With nearly 2 billion people on Earth, imagine if everyone shared the same desire at once. Your wish would face 2 billion competitors. Additionally, people are at varying levels of development and cannot always recognize whose needs are greater or step aside for others. Society today is like grains of sand in a bottle, constantly jostling and clashing, creating disharmony without achieving their aims. Have you observed what happens to your ideas? An idea comes to mind and you ponder it for days, months, or even years, only to abandon it eventually. Why? The time for it has not come. Consider how many of your ideas have been realized. Why can't a person fulfill their ideals? Because they are not ready. A merchant must be knowledgeable and resourceful to wisely apply their capital. A student must have specific abilities and diligently apply their mind to work. Similarly, to realize one's ideas, one must develop their mind, heart, and will through conscious effort. As students of life, you must work on yourself with persistence and endurance, treating both joys and sorrows as visitors to be welcomed with awareness and love, not mere obligation. For example, if a general punishes an officer by making him walk barefoot through the city carrying a jug of water, the officer complies out of necessity. For a student, however, such a challenge should be seen as an ideal, and they should be willing to endure anything for their ideal. Pursuing an ideal drives a person forward, helping them discover their inner strength and measure their progress. In life, people face tasks they must solve independently. Imagine being tasked with making your way in society. What method would you use? Or consider being told to pass through an enemy line, tightly guarded by armed soldiers. You might think it impossible until you realize you could transform into a bird to fly over or a mole to tunnel beneath. These symbols represent two states that enable a person to overcome trials. Achieving a desire is like navigating such a line. It requires appropriate conditions, which are not always readily available. In a future world where people live in harmony, everyone will help one another fulfill their desires through shared thought and effort, creating a swift pathway for realization. The fulfillment of desires brings happiness. However, a person's happiness is not confined to their country or immediate environment. For instance, a Bulgarian's happiness is not solely in Bulgaria, just as a German's is not solely in Germany. Happiness may be scattered across the world in the soil, air, water, or food, but it also lies in the sun, Venus, Jupiter, and other celestial bodies. If one knows the laws of communication with these sources, they can draw upon their conditions for growth. In higher states of consciousness, a person might telegraph beings on the sun for assistance, receiving the elements they need. Modern people have not yet reached the level of direct communication with beings from other worlds. Instead, they turn to spirituality to connect internally with God, aligning themselves with the possibilities of the living cosmos. To turn to God means to gain the light necessary for understanding the conditions for developing one's mind, heart, and will. Only by doing so can one build their life, organize their inner forces, and give way to the divine, their higher self.